So in this boudoir film, I thought we'd talk about just using one prop, so kind of section it out from the actual shoot itself. This is a converted spare bedroom up in the studio where we first began photo training for you, now Photographer Academy, many moons ago, with an amazing model, kind of Tia. And we basically had X amount of budget to actually put a simple set together. So we went to kind of IKEA, spent, I think it was about 300 quid, and then we were done. So basically we bought a dresser and a bed, and that was basically being used then for a very long time as far as the boudoir photography. So I just want to look at this point where we're looking at the dress and how it's going to be used. So the first things first, I would always kind of suggest that you have a small stool to actually kind of have alongside the actual dress. So that's good for actually sitting, leaning, kneeling. We didn't buy one at the time because my budget didn't have it. So basically we used an old posing tub as the kind of extra. And that's what you can see on the floor just behind it, underneath the table. So setup is basically, there is a bit of window light coming into the set, but it's using one light, as you can see here, kind of coming off from the right hand side. That's why we've got this big shadow, but I'm not going to talk about lighting. So as far as the kind of the set is concerned, first things first, you know, when you've got a mirror, think about what's being reflected in it, including you. Because it's amazing how kind of you just get too excited with the shoot. Your ideas are flowing, you know, clients great, models great, and you're kind of just really kind of rolling through the images. But the last thing you want to do is actually spend your life kind of retouching, following and everything else with it and things really. So, you know, for me it was different because we had a video guy as well, kind of in the small room and so on with it. Anyway, I just got the shoot going by getting Tia to kind of look in towards the mirrors you can see here, using all that light coming in. So we've got some beautiful quality of lighting coming through. And the quickest way to do that is usually put your light by a window. And if it's usually by a window, at least you know that's going to give you some direction than sticking it in the middle of the room or whatever it is. Turning the body slightly away from the light, of course, and because it's a white room, there's going to be enough bouncing light and flash around the place to actually start to fill in most of the shadows anyway. Pretty much these are straight out of camera, the majority of the images as well with it. So leaning in, it's a good idea, like I said to you, to use a stool, a footstool, to either kneel on, sit on, because that can actually raise the legs and basically allows the client to kind of shift and move their balance as well with it and things. So again, you can go through some kind of makeup area. I'm kind of, when a client kind of looks towards me during the shoot, it almost feels a bit fake to me. So I prefer to actually work with kind of that looking through the keyhole, what the butler saw kind of styling of boudoir. But, you know, if you want to kind of do all the shots where the client is looking at you, the model is looking at you, I got no problem. It's just a personal taste. If I'm going to get her to look at me though, I've got to make sure the lighting is good on the face. And obviously I've got a good expression as well. It can't just be, oh, look at me, take the shot and move on again. So slow it down. I think that was one of the benefits of when we used to shoot in film, is because you knew you only had 12 on a roll or 24 on a roll. If you're shooting 6.6, 10 if we were shooting 6.7, or obviously 35mm, you'd have 36 on a roll and things. But it would slow you down because you know your kind of shoot counter is going down. And I would try and encourage you to kind of think about shooting slower with everything that you do, without looking on the back of the camera too much, I mean. So slight parting of the knees as well will actually happen when they kneel. So it kind of gives you a good kind of shaping of the body. Of course, then moving the camera position drastically will drastically change the image. If you stay in the same place, basically you're going to get the same images. So I always encourage photographers to kind of dance around the subject. And even if you've got light that is fixed in a position, as long as you're not trying to kind of shoot the same perfect lighting on a face, let's say, then at least you can kind of change it up a little bit and how you can kind of get the different kind of look and the variety. And if the lighting's not as good as you want it to be on the subject's face, don't get them to look at camera. That's the number one rule. Get them to look down, kind of adjust lingerie, get something out of a drawer, put lipstick on, whatever it is. But as soon as they look at you, the lighting, you have to think about how it falls onto the face. When you're photographing from the back, obviously it's a dynamic as far as the bottom's concerned. That's where, again, a knee onto a posing tub or a stool will kind of shape and change the body as well with it and things, as you can see from this image. Plus, you know, if you move the camera position just a little bit and you turn the client's face a little bit, if you need to or you want to shoot some faceless images, this is where obviously the client's face is not visible. A lot of clients were going for this kind of image for their wall the portraits, so it kind of didn't have to have their face fully in the shot and things. But again, as far as a faceless image, it's a really good starting point for you to actually kind of start to kind of go down more of a 50 Shades route perhaps, or something like that. But yeah, just moving that knee up onto a posing tub or the likes of a seat stool, then it'll kind of make a difference no matter what. You can see what I'm on about the reflection. As far as the kind of the black t-shirt, that's mine. The shorts, they're mine. That leg, it's mine. So like, don't do as I do, do as I say, and make sure you're kind of aware of what is kind of going in to the shot. If you've got something that is basically being reflected in the mirror that you're not a massive fan of, don't be afraid to use the likes of a pop-up background to hide it in it, so you can kind of put it where the reflection is going to be. I'm not on about in front of you. You move the position, move the prop or whatever it would be. But here we've got this tabletop dresser, so she can lean on it. Basically, she can not kneel on it, but she can kind of pretty much put a bottom on it to just lean the weight rather than sit on it and things really. But as far as the reflections are concerned, you can pretty much kind of play around with ideas. Like I was saying, when you start to pop the weight onto the dresser, you know, this has a loose glass top as well. So that's going to leave some kind of mark on the bottom if she sat there for too long. So you don't want to be doing this shot and then reverse the shot where she's turned around again, because you're going to end up with some kind of red marks across the actual flesh and things really. So remember, dancing around the subject, kneeling, leaning, and just kind of then cropping in and changing angle, get her to interact with her lingerie as much as you can, interacting with her hair, and then kind of step back even more and start to kind of shoot through things. So I've now moved away fully and I'm now shooting through the bed head. We'll cover the bed head in a future film. But this then allows you to get that almost kind of what the butler saw, shooting through this out of focus kind of element, these bars. So when I chose the bed, it was specifically so I could actually shoot through it as well, and not just the cheapest one in IKEA. As far as kind of misplacing weight, it's hard when the client is sitting on something or leaning on something. If they're trying to put weight onto both feet for stability, try and get the foot to one of the feet to actually go onto the ball of the foot, and then at least they've got a balanced foot, and then the other foot is taking all of the weight. Make sure everything's balanced and everything else. But just from this position, you should be able to actually direct the client. Tia, can you look a little bit more to the right? Can you look a little bit more to the left? Okay, look at me now. Okay, Tia, can you just actually pop both of the hands up towards the actual ribbon between the bust and kind of have a little fiddle on that as if you're doing it up. Okay, Tia, can you just move that knee on the right side, the one on the kind of the tippy toe? Can you move that out a little bit more? Can you lean the knee in more? You can give precise directions from behind the camera position. But if you're working with the camera in front of you like I do, you've got to remember that you've got to kind of speak a little bit louder as such, because otherwise they're not going to hear you, because it's going to be muffled behind the camera. So like I was saying to you, you know, if you kind of swap straight away from a leaning shot against the kind of the tabletop, and then you actually go into a kind of a back shot, you can see then you've left some marks. So we're going to need to do some retouching on that and everything else. And she said it was comfortable, and many clients did following this. But it's just about kind of thinking about the flow of the images that you're going to be doing. So the shoot through, the leaning on, kind of the animation with the lingerie, it all kind of adds up into the kind of the variety that you can shoot with just one prop. And again, I would suggest, if you're not doing so already, that you add a few of the kind of the faceless images into the shoot part as well. But you can see there, you know, within probably 15 minutes tops. Probably I could have had that done if I was in a rush within about 5 to 6 minutes. But within about 15 minutes using one prop, you're kind of ready for a lingerie change, so you can move on to another prop or into another style of the shoot. See you next time.